Hi, folks. Welcome to your Fat Egg podcast, sponsored by the Gersnet microphones. My name's Alec Anderson, but I am fat, and you can call me Eck. And I'm talking to you on the evening of Thursday, the 6th of June, 2024. Thursday, the 6th of the 6th. The Champions League was won last Saturday. I don't know by who. I just know it was a club that won it for the sixth time in 1966, at a time when it was still called the European Champion Clubs Cup, or European Cup. A guy called Francisco Pajo Gento, Spanish international. He was the only player to play in all six of the first European Cups that they won. He also played when they lost the final in 1962 and 1964. And I've met him. Yeah, I've met him. So now I got his autograph. He died a couple of years ago, but an absolute legend. And I'm now going to have to go and meet Luka Modric and Danny Carvajal, who I saw getting his arse handed to him at Hampden by the Scotland national team earlier on this season. But there he was, being a bit of a legend. Gento scored in two of those first six European Cup winning finals for Real Madrid, the club that won seven European Cups / Champions Leagues in the last 44 years of the 20th century, and have now won 8 Champions Leagues in the first 24 years of the 21st century. Monopoly? I don't think so. So Danny Carvajal, he's now scored. It was a great way for him to actually get himself equal with Gento and show that he's at least got a goal in the final as well, make himself a bit of a legend. I'm not having the Tony Kroos thing. I'm not having that at all. Great player. He might demonstrate that against Scotland just over a week's time, but Tony Kroos didn't play in all the finals. A few of the guys are trying to get the 5 winners' medals, 6 winners. They might have the medals. They might have made a contribution, but for me, you've got to actually play in the final. But that's European club football anyway. I'm going to take you back to an August night in 2021. We're just back in the grounds. It was an amazing thing to be back in the stadiums, and after COVID, after lockdown, Rangers had won the league unbeaten the previous season, but we hadn't been there. When COVID struck, when lockdown struck in the March of the previous season, 2019-20, I'd been on the verge of completing the entire SJFA West region, the Scottish Junior, and then the Scottish Juniors West region was coming to an end because the West of Scotland League was coming to play. It was coming into play. There's been a complete reorganisation of the pyramid system had been brought into Scottish football because Rangers hit financial problems in 2012. So anybody trying to tell you about sell out Saturday and all that, and let's just ignore the fact that Rangers have dropped into the fourth tier of Scottish football. It's funny how all this complete reorganisation happened within a year, complete reorganisation of the whole league structure and below in Scotland, which so many clubs had been advocating for decades. Suddenly, just like that, it had to be brought in because it had to do something else to make up for the lack of excitement provided by Rangers not being there in the top flight. So I was trying to complete the SJFA West. I can't remember how many grounds I had left to do at that point in time, but that was it. Done. I went to, was it Robertson Park? Was the last one. I went to see Thorneywood United, and that was it. That was the last game I went to in the juniors as well. Bang, and I found myself the following all through lockdown. I was just vowing that I would do as many junior grounds as I possibly could, the lower league grounds as they then became, and in August 2021, suddenly we were back in the grounds. I'd tickets for all 4 of the games being staged at Hampden during Euro 2020, but of course that got delayed until 2021, and then because we still had to have restrictions and the number of people getting into stadiums, you had to hand back 2 of your tickets. So I got to see Scotland in a major tournament. My first game back in a stadium was seeing Scotland for the first time in my life, seeing them actually playing finals football, and it was at Hampden of all places. That was one of the things I'd still left to do in the wish list. So I got to see that, getting beat 2-0 by the Czech Republic. So a great goal by Patrick Schick. And the other one I got to go to was the Sweden against Ukraine game in the last 16. This is really boring, but there's a point to this. I just can't help remembering the way we were all feeling at the time, because I was out on a Friday night. Rangers were playing at Ibrox on a Friday night. I met my pal Robert because we were down to meet up. Everybody just wanted to socialise as much as possible. We were in the Loudon because New Edmiston House wasn't a thing yet. We're in the Loudon. Not that I'm saying I wouldn't go back to Loudon just now. I still love the Loudon. It's been absolutely brilliant to me over the years, far better than New Edmiston House. It's had a chance to be to me. And we're in the Loudon, just getting bevied and talking crap to the point where I'd missed the underground. I need the subway to get myself home, on the cheap. And I have walked it. I can walk to Ibrox from my house, but not that time of night and knowing that many beers in me, I can't walk back the way. So Robert's a bit closer. We said we're goodbyes, we're drunken goodbyes at the end of Coltman Road, and I just started going to the right along Edmondson Drive, along Shield Hall Road. I thought I'll flag a taxi down. And it's not as easy as you think. And I got to the point where there's along Shield Hall Road, it's a wee kind of, what do you call them? It's not a retail park. There's a Domino's and there's a Greg's and there's a kind of tanning salon. If you know it, you know it. And there's a wee bus stop there, and I noticed there was a boy upside down in the bus stop, a guy much the same age as myself, upside down, Rangers scarf around his neck. I think he had a flag on him as well, and he did not look good. I'm like, that can't be good, so I kind of picked him up. He was just totally gone out the game, and he just kind of come out, he's reeking a drink and what have you, and I'm in no place to judge. And he said, I just remember going, I've done it again, oh no, I'm pissed, I've done it again. And I'm like, I'm sorry mate, we'll get you up the road, where is it you stay? And he kept trying to tell me the address, and I can't remember the name, I can't remember what it was. So I flagged in a taxi, eventually I flagged it down, and I'm like, right, I'll drop this fellow off on the way up the road. And I mentioned the name of the address to the taxi driver. I was like, where's that? I said, I don't know, it's this guy here, and I turned round and the fella was standing in the middle of the road pissing. He's pissing in the middle of he'd gone over the wee wall into the kind of car park for these shops, and he was just having a pish out in the open, and I turned back round, the taxi driver was away. I'm not taking him away. This guy was making me look sober. So I was trying to phone the taxi at the same time, but I think word had got about. Another one kind of slowed down. Had a look at the fella, and no, I wasn't interested, and just went away somewhere else. This is an absolute nightmare. And at this point in time, I was feeling really bad because I know, being somebody who's no stranger to the drink, no stranger to being paralytic myself, you do sometimes rely on the kindness of strangers to get you up the road and make sure you don't die, basically. And this boy, I didn't want to leave him. I think maybe it's after COVID and everybody trying to look out for each other. But I don't know what it was, but I was feeling really. I just couldn't leave the guy. It helped, of course, that it was a beautiful night. It was really warm and what have you. But I was kind of hanging about and thinking, I'm going to make sure this guy gets up the road. And then at one point, he just kind of woke up and he went, "Who are you? What are you doing?" Like I was some sort of pervert that was trying to molest him or something like that. So he started kind of walking away from me. And I'm like, "Are you all right, mate? Are you all right to get up the road?" What's it got to do with you? So he completely turned. But I was left without a taxi. Couldn't get a taxi because everybody was ignoring my phone calls after that. Word had got around that there was a guy who, was a drunk who liked to pish everywhere. And I ended up having to walk all the way up to the hospital, the big new hospital, and go in there and just basically go up to taxi rank. And luckily there was a guy sitting there who turned out to be a total blue nose. I'm still convinced to this day it's the guy at the beginning of the Rangers 72 video who's sitting in his taxi and says something about Rangers being brilliant and what have you. You're born a Ranger. And I think that's what it is. And eventually got up the road. That was Friday the 13th. It was Friday the 13th. My feet were absolutely gouting. There's no way I was walking through the Clyde Tunnel at that time of night. That was Friday the 13th. And that night, John Lundstrom scored his first goal for Rangers after 3 minutes in a League Cup tie against Championship side, about to be relegated from the Championship, Dunfermline Athletic. 66, talking about Real Madrid and all that, and Paco Gento getting 6 European Cup medals. 6 days before that, John Lundstrom had been culpable for Dundee United's winner against us at Tannadice, the first league game we'd lost in over a season. And 6 days after that great goal against Dunfermline, into the Broomloan League, is right up to the Union. But you've seen it doing the rounds the last week. He got up to the Union Bells like, yes, I'm back, I'm the man. 6 days after that, he gets himself sent off against Alarskert in the Europa League. The Dundee United game had come in between the two kind of disastrous 2-1 losses to Malmo in the Champions League, the last qualifying round of the Champions League, which meant so much to Steven Gerrard's reign. And we failed to get through that, failed to get into the Champions League. By the time we played Alarskert in the playoff round to get into the Europa League, I think Gerrard was kind of done with the Europa League, and so were Rangers. That wasn't going to do us any. wasn't going to do us any big favours. That we were sick of getting all the way through all the qualifying rounds and what have you for the Europa League. It was all about the Champions League now. And Jon Gone got myself sent off because I sold the jerseys, let his guy go, and then he brought him down, straight red card, and we had to play that game with 10 men. Alfredo Douglas at the hole, he got the winner on the night. And then over in Alashkert, over in Armenia in the second leg, a young Robby McCrorie had to go in goals for us. I don't know, what happened? Was it injuries or was it COVID or something like that? And Alan McGregor and John McLaughlin couldn't play. Anyway, Robby McCrorie had to go in goals for us over there. He got kicked in the head and they had a man sent off, but we still only drew 0-0. We managed to just kind of stumble our way through that Europa League. But I think that night, for me, that Friday the 13th, kind of summed up John Lundstrom's Rangers career on the face of it, on the surface of it. Cracking goal, looking brilliant, all around it, so many doubts. But then that Europa League campaign, we lost the first 2 games, looked absolutely terrible. We end up losing Steven Gerrard before the end of that group stage, that Europa League. As manager, he goes off to Aston Villa. Would he have stayed if we'd got into the Champions League? I don't know. I think Villa would have taken him away anyway. But Gerrard had signed a fellow Scouser midfielder, this guy John Lundstrom from Sheffield United, on a free in the summer of 2021, adding to the squad that had just won the league unbeaten the previous season that we were expecting so much from. And yeah, I think that just kind of summed up the way that night was for me. It was great, but it was the next day I went to see him. The next day, I still managed to drag myself out of bed and I got myself to Guy's Meadow. I'd never seen Cumbernauld United at home before, and I got myself along there and I got that off the list. And eventually, they were now on the West of Scotland League, but I knew what ones had been West of Scotland juniors, so I eventually managed to tick them all off as a promise I'd made to myself during those lockdown months when we couldn't go to the football. But yeah, that kind of feeling about John Lundstrom, and that's persisted until this point in time where he's actually left. It got a lot worse for him towards the end of his Rangers career. The last few weeks there, they get booed on by some fans at the end of the Scottish Cup final. He came on as a substitute at the end of the Scottish Cup final. Didn't help that we were already a goal down, and there wasn't many Rangers fans booing. But I thought that it went too far. It's been really horrible for him. But what we have to remember, I think, with John Lundstrom is in that Europa League campaign, we all talk about him scoring the goal, him being there to put it over the line. After that ball for Ryan Kent, it kind of dips down. Is it Schlomeslayer? He's in there. It kind of comes off the back of his head, and Lunny's just there to put it over the line. It felt like it was meant to happen. I almost feel that, although that's John Lundstrom's greatest moment in a Rangers shirt, and it's probably the greatest moment for many of us as Rangers supporters, that night is certainly the greatest night of my life as a Rangers supporter. John Lundstrom scoring the winner that put us into a European final after we've been in the lower leagues and what have you. A monumental night, but I feel as if it could have been anybody that scored that goal, because that night was, I think actually the greatest moment in that game was Tav and then Kamara scoring just the first 2 goals. That was it. It just felt magical. Even Leipzig's goal was an absolute belter of a goal they scored. It felt like this has to happen just to make it more kind of epic. I mean, they can't just go. We can't just blow them away. That's not good enough. There's got to be something exciting about it. It's got to be a really late winner in this game, and Lundstrom was the man that put it over the line. But I feel more what he did in that tournament and turning himself from villain into hero was he scored the goal that made me believe. He scored the goal that made me believe this is on, and it was, I think all of us got the proper belief when Gio having coming in and giving us an amazing spurt of energy when he first arrived, starting off with the decisive Europa League group stage game against Sparta Prague. Alfie getting the 2 goals, we had to win by 2 clear goals, I think, and we did on the night. We go into this playoff rounds, last 32 thing after Christmas. We get Borussia Dortmund. Haaland wasn't playing; he was injured, but he was still there at that point. The money they had, the level they were playing at, Borussia Dortmund. It was a disappointment for them that they'd come out of the Champions League. They were, I think, favourites to win the Europa League. And of course, you know what happened. We go over there already kind of struggling in the league by that point. And it was just after Christmas that we started really, Gio arrived, fantastic, great energy straight away, gave us a real lift. We looked like we were going to run away with the league, but it started going wrong after the winter break, surprise, surprise. But this night, we go over to Dortmund, and I knew straight away we were playing well. I knew we were playing so well, and we go a goal up. We get the penalty out of nowhere through VAR. I mean, it was a penalty, but it just, nobody was expecting it. We get this penalty through VAR, and we go one goal up, and it's suited. We deserved it. And then we go 2 goals up. Both those goals, and I'm watching this on television, obviously. I wasn't at the game. I kind of mildly cheered, but I didn't let go. I didn't let go of my emotions at all because I know what Germans are like. I love German football. We've all grown up, or guys my age grew up on tales of German teams making phenomenal comebacks. The German national team is the only national team to come back from 2 goals down in 3 different major finals. I mean, don't mean Scotland are chuffed because they qualified for a finals tournament next week. They qualified the actual final. The 86 World Cup and the Euro 76, the final match, they come back for 2 goals down. Some of the Germans do. They're great comebacks. So you never write off the Germans, as they say. And even though it's a German club full of foreigners, Borussia Dortmund, I'm thought, no, I don't. I'm hanging on. It's only half time in the first leg. We know what this team can do. We know what any German club side can do to you. But when Ryan Kent did what he did to Mats Hummels, World Cup winner Mats Hummels, a guy who scored the winner in a Champions League semi-final just a few weeks ago, and teed it back for John Lundstrom, I knew it was in before Lundstrom hit it. I knew it was in before, because it was just going that way. The game had been going that way, and we had started the second half as well as we'd ended the first. And I knew how it was going to get put in the back of the net. I knew, even though it was teed up to him from, I think it was outside the D, never mind outside the box, he just stroked it out in that bottom corner, and I basically hit the ceiling. That was it. It just all came out there, and it was like, that's 3-0. I knew Dortmund were going to come back. I knew we were going to go beat them 6-0 in the Westfalen. I knew they were going to come back at us the way they did on that night and again at Ibrox. But I knew that was a difference. I knew that meant we were through. We were going to beat Borussia Dortmund, and it also meant we had a chance of going all the way to the final, at least, in a European tournament again. And so soon after us being in the bottom tier of Scottish football, it meant the absolute world to me. And that is something I will always remember John Lundstrom for. He's been getting a hell of a lot of stick this season. I thought it was particularly bad the week before we went to Parkhead in the last Old Firm League game of the season, where he hit an all-time low. John Lundstrom, he set up 2 of the goals in our 4-1 win over Kilmarnock that meant we would go to Parkhead with at least a chance of still being able to win the league. We beat Kilmarnock 4-1 the previous Sunday. He scored 2 goals and also played a major part in the move that won as a penalty and got a Kilmarnock player sent off. And yet, before that and after it, there was just cries all over social media of how this guy is going to sell the jerseys. He's not going to be able to do what we need doing. He's going to get overrun in the midfield. He always does against Celtic. It was Rangers fans like hating him. And John Lundstrom, the other cry was always, he only plays for 3 months, and then he lets you down again. We couldn't get players who could play for 3 games this season. Another player who's leaving this week, Kemar No More, case in point. I feel to slag a guy in the current Rangers team for only being able to play for 3 months sums up a lot of the problems I've had with it, a lot of the attitude from a lot of supporters this season at Rangers. John Lundstrom really did fall victim to that, but he goes to Parkhead, and I feel as if the abysmal performance he has at Parkhead, scoring an own goal, not getting involved at all, then trying to get involved and doing it so badly that he gets himself sent off just at the point where we've pulled a goal back. I feel as if it was almost willed to happen by sections of Rangers support. God knows what it must have done to Lundstrom, because you saw his message this week. I think he posted it on Instagram, just full of love for Rangers, full of talking about how he fell in love with the club and he loved the fans and they made everything so special for him, and he was really gutted that he never got to win the league as a Rangers player, but he loved winning the 2 cups and all that. And people are, that's the loser mentality, that's what's wrong with you. Again, I've said it so many other podcasts I've done for Jersnet this season. I've said it just every time I speak into one of these microphones. In the last couple of years, context. We just need context. And I think there's a lot of knowing the price of everything and the value of nothing going on with Rangers support just now. We're really frustrated at not winning the league title. Nobody understands it like I do. I'm not the best Rangers supporter in the world, but I'm in the top kind of half, I would think, of giving my life to Rangers. So I get it. I get the frustration, but there's also sometimes it's just great to support Rangers. There's got to be a point in time where you're just supporting the club rather than supporting the club only if they win, and certainly not being abusive to every player who's doing what they can. I don't think John Lundstrom was ever the kind of player that position he played in would require. He needed, he didn't have the skill set, I don't think. He was going to take the ball, turn quite slowly, bang it up the park and wanting to chase after it, but not be allowed to because he's trying to be a sitting midfielder as well. I think he's more of a kind of box to box type of guy. He just likes to run about, maybe a bit more like a headless chicken, if you like. It wasn't. I don't think he had the basic skills, the intricate skills that were required, but he gave it so much energy, and he certainly had enough skills. Scored a few cracking goals for us over the years that he was at Rangers, and he goes off to Trabzonspor. I think where Borna Gone-ah is headed as well. Trabzonspor. One of the other things, the first things I did after lockdown, the first holiday I went on, eventually got my passport in after Rangers had been in Seville. Forgot to renew my passport during lockdown, like so many people, so many millions of people in the UK, and of course I couldn't get it renewed in time for getting to Seville because there was a mass rush on in the whole country. Everybody just wanted to get out and go on holiday. So it was eventually, I think I got my passport in June 2022, and the first place I went was Berlin. And Berlin, Germany, massive Turkish population, or people of Turkish descent in Germany, and Trabzonspor had won the league that season, the Turkish league. Trabzonspor, but they're it's a kind of Luger Boswell type claret and blue kit they've got, Trabzonspor, and their flags were everywhere. A lot of flags over like garages and taxi ranks and stuff like that in Berlin. So they're a massive concern, a massive club, and every bit as crazy as a Rangers supporter, I would imagine. But all the best of luck to John Lundstrom, who was, I wouldn't call him a controversial figure, but he did a lot of good, and he took a lot of flack, but he kept going, and I think that's something that we need to appreciate, because with so many players who get so much more praise than John Lundstrom by dint of not having the jersey on and being on the park trying to do anything. So all the best to Lunny. I've never had a problem with the guy, and I hope he does really well in Turkey, and I really thank him for his kind words about the club and about us supporters, despite everything that's been sent his way over the last few weeks. Was totally undeserved. Remember the tackle against Callum McGregor in the semi-final, our last meaningful win over Celtic 2 years ago. That's a problem. It's over. It's 2 years ago, so that was well been 2 decades ago in Rangers' time. But he did really well in that game. The last time he won the Scottish Cup. We won the Scottish Cup that time under Gio. But yeah, and we've also got 4 other players leaving this week. Well, absolutely leaving the club, announcing that they are on their way, contracts terminated, given frees technically. Borna, I think, is he going to Trabzonspor as well? The Croatian connection, Borna, the first time I saw him, he was scoring against us for Osijek of Croatia from his homeland. Osijek, that's Edin Terzic, the Borussia Dortmund manager, playing against Real Madrid last Saturday in the Champions League final. His mum is from Osijek. He's a German national, but his mum's from Osijek. That's a wee thing about it. I remember Osijek, their supporters attacked our supporters. They were going along Paisley Road West after kick-off to kind of pick off lone Rangers fans who, I've seen the footage, who got up and fought back, after getting decked from behind, total cowards that they were. There 100 or so wee hooligans, and I didn't know anything about this at the time. On the night, of course, I'm in, and I like to be in before kick-off. I'm quite anal when it comes to the football. I like to get my money's worth. And I'm watching this game. We'd beat Osijek in the away leg. I was away on holiday. Alfredo scores the goal over in Croatia. This crucial, trying to get us into the Europa League group stages. Steven Gerrard's first season as manager, and then their fans all come in about 10 minutes, 20 minutes late. So I thought they didn't have many supporters with them. Not a very big club. But then they come into the wee corner between the Broomloan and the Govan, and there's total jeers, which I thought seemed to speak of people knowing something that had happened. I didn't know that they'd got absolutely leathered, a few of them stabbed, a lot of them hospitalised, because there was enough straggling bears just kicking about outside. Not an organised ICF job, just they're battering Rangers supporters. God, an absolute doing they did. But that kind of mentalness sums up. That must have suited Borna. And he scored against that. I think it goes down to a Connor Goldson own goal, but it seemed to go in off Alan McGregor as well. But Borna certainly hits it from left back into the Copeland as well. They're shooting into the Copeland second half, unusual. But we're winning 1-0 on the night. Katic, big Niko Katic had scored for us, a big Croatian influence in that game. And this guy with the bandaged head scores this goal against us in the last minute. Away goals still applied in those days, so they needed another couple, but there was no big panic about it. But aye, this guy had made his mark, and we sign him. We sign him, and he had a kind of injury hit first season at Rangers, but I think it was beginning the following season. Borna, of course, scores that goal against St Mirren's like August, September time in the season. It was a game we were kind of struggling in. Round about the hour mark, Borna steps up, and this boy can hit a free kick, and he curls one into the top corner. It's St Mirren. Fantastic, that'll do fine. Wins the game, only goal of the game. That was him. He kind of announced himself after a difficult first season. And then he has that gate at Parkhead where he has both the assists, or first one at Parkhead in the best part of a decade. Teeing up the first one for Ryan Kent, a lovely left foot ball played across the carpet into the box, picking him out beautifully so Ryan could just hit it first time. And then the corner, a famous Borna Barisic corner in the second half, right onto the head of his compatriot, big Niko Katic, bang, into the Rangers end goal at Parkhead, and we win that game, and it's absolutely massive for Gerrard. Again, we don't win the league, but it's part of building this is why I don't like to be too down on players just now if they've made some sort of contribution. That was laying the foundations of the title win that we'd have the following season. Borna Barisic central to that. And then that title win we have in 2020, 2021, Borna Barisic and James Tavernier a couple of times. I remember doing it against Hamilton Accies at New Douglas Park, doing it against Galatasaray in the was it Europa League qualifiers. Borna from the left-hand side over to his fellow wing-back on the right-hand side, and Tav would score. That was kind of the ultimate, that was that blueprint, that tactical blueprint, which Michael Beale had a lot to do with. At its ultimate, when we went wing-back to wing-back for our goals. Borna, I remember scoring 3 penalties. Remember Tav get injured against Royal Antwerp, where our current manager hails from. Famous old Belgian club, Royal Antwerp. We got them in the first knockout round of the 2020-2021 Europa League campaign, having won our group, and then we faced Royal Antwerp. The Dolly Parton game, 9-5, ends up 9-5 in favour of Rangers on aggregate. But the game over there, we end up winning a thriller in Antwerp by 4-3. But Tav gets injured, because we just banned Nathan Patterson because he'd broken a lockdown, having a wee party in Hayburn Lane in the West End of Glasgow, and his wee digs in there. He was at a party, or had a social gathering, which was totally against the rules at the time because of COVID. So Nathan Patterson, no, we're not going to need him anyway because Tav's never injured. The minute we drop Nathan Patterson, Tav gets injured. But first problem is we get penalties. We get a couple of penalties against Royal Antwerp in that second half of an end-to-end game. Up steps Borna. I'll take care of this. And what I remember most of all, he scores both penalties on the night, and he scores another penalty when we beat them at Ibrox as well in the second leg. And Nathan Patterson is back in the team and scores a cracker as well that turns that game. Make sure we're going to win that tie quite handsomely in aggregate. But the thing I remember is the goalkeeper, the Royal Antwerp goalkeeper, trying a bit of the mind games, as goalies do, with the penalty taker, who happened to be Borna. And Borna puts the penalty away and then just walks up to the goalie. What were you saying? And it's the goalie had that look in his face of like, mate, you've just scored the penalty. You win. There's no. You've won the mind games, but Borna wasn't bothering about if he scored the penalty. It's like, this guy is trying to get in my face. And these rumours started, these stories, tabloid stories emerged. True or not, I don't know. About his dad being some sort of gangland, kingpin, somebody you don't want to mess with. And from being a player, Borna, who forensic with the crossing, like laser accurate crosses, but very gaunt looking, that typical Croat way where you're a kind of bigger scale, like you're wide, but it's all sinew, thin yet massive. It's a particular physique that the Croats have, and I'm sure it plays a massive part in why they do so well as a national team for a country of 3 million people. Plus, they're berserk. They are insane generally. They have a passion that's just off the scale for the football. Novak Djokovic, Serbian, that's a very big mistake. But there's other, Croatian sportsmen, who's the other tennis player? Even Nisevic. They'll all get that kind of, whatever sport they're into, the Croats are heavily. They're very big into water polo. They're very passionate, and that's why they do quite well for a small nation. But Borna, he would look very tentative. It was Rugby Park, his last game there at Rugby Park. Nearly saw the end. Kind of was basically the spiritual end of his Rangers career, and in his early days at Rangers, he had a couple of games at Rugby Park where he wouldn't go over the halfway line. The plastic was putting him off. He looked really tentative, but he was insane. He was absolutely mad. And I remember at the end of that game in Antwerp, because there's no crowd in the stadium because COVID was still restrictions still applied. It just you could hear the technical staff, and I think it must have been Gary McAllister. I don't think it was Stephen Gerrard. I'm sure it was a Scottish accent, the kind of Anglo accent, where it's just like Connor, get him away. And it was Connor Golson was getting sent out to get Borna by the neck because he was wanting to fight their goalkeeper, and the goalie's just looking at him like, what? But you've won the game and you've scored the 2 penalties against me. I was just trying to wind you up and put you off, mate. I didn't. And Borna was just like, no. He had that look in his face, which is, it was none of this. Somebody holding me back. Right, come on then, come on. It was just like, no, we're going to have a physical conflict here. No, you want to. You insulted me. Let's now have a physical conflict. I will fight you. It was. I love Borna. He was absolutely brilliant. He had his problems. His form would fluctuate. He'd a couple of games at Parkhead where he was as culpable as anybody. Looked absolutely terrible. Where we get horsed by Postecoglou's Celtic, and that didn't do him any favours. The one for me was up at Dingwall as well. Again, we'll come on to Alan McGregor, kind of selling jerseys, and Borna played his part. We conceded a last-minute equaliser just after the Christmas break in Gio's first season, or just after he'd arrived in the November, and this was us into the kind of February before we went to Parkhead and ended up getting horsed 3-0. They were 3-0 down at half-time, but we dropped 2 points in the last kick of the ball up at Dingwall because of a defensive aberration. And I remember Al McGregor quite rightly getting a lot of blame for it, but I remember Borna just being absolutely nowhere. And he kind of picked the guy up who scored. I'm assuming it was Jordan White. Can't really remember, but so he had a lot of bad moments. Did Borna, but my God, he had a lot of great moments as well. And played a European final. Same as John Lundstrom, played in a European final for Rangers, and that's something that can never be taken away from him. Calvin Bassey coming in, and I think Borna was injured at the start of 2021-2022 season, and Bassey was playing live, and he'd been a bit of a bomb scare at the end of the season where we won 55. Bassey was getting brought in. No, I don't fancy him at all. And here he was, did a really good. It was against Livingston. We beat Livingston 3-0, and Bassey was doing really well, going down the left, overlapping and getting crosses in, and he looked like he was basically going to take Borna's position, but he ends up getting moved into centre half, Calvin Bassey, because he could play anywhere. He was phenomenal for us that season. We ended up getting to Seville, but Borna was phenomenally forensic with his crossing, and just on his day, him and Tav were unstoppable, and I thought it was absolutely lovely that the trophy won this season, the one trophy we needed, we still hadn't won since 2012, that League Cup. It was Borna putting a cross in, and it was Tav scoring the only goal of the game at Hampden in December. Absolutely beautiful for the man. So all the best to Borna. I'm needing to confirm that. Sorry, he got to Trabzonspor. That was the talk. He's going to Turkey as well. Lots of rumours throughout his career that the Rangers career, that he was going to go somewhere else. Also, he's got a bronze medal for the World Cup. Borna. He played against Brazil as well. We should check if he scored his penalty. If he scored in the penalty shootout, was that against Brazil? I think they beat Brazil in penalties in maybe the quarter final or something like that, Croatia. But yeah, absolutely, I think with 20 caps or something for his country. I'm sure he's got a goal for Croatia as well. And that's him. He's got a bronze medal from the last World Cup finals. So it's all makes me really proud to have players like that representing Rangers. That's me done. Lundstrom and Barisic. Who else is leaving? Oh, John McLaughlin. I don't mean John McLaughlin from the Mahavishnu group, Mahavishnu. That John McLaughlin is kind of jazz fusion guitarist. He's still on the go in his 80s. He was in that group. It's do you know that Unfinished Sympathy, the Massive Attack, the Blue Lines, not the video, or Sharon Nelson's walking down that street in Los Angeles, and that One Take, doing stuff in One Take. That's inspired me, obviously. I always thought it was Sharon Nelson doing the hey, 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 the kind of backing vocal type thing. But it isn't. It's a guy from this John McLaughlin's group for the 70s. You'd have heard of Narada Michael Walden. Narada Michael Walden was a name I grew up with. It's a distinctive name. His name's Michael Walden, but he was given this kind of title, Narada, by a mystic, one of these mystics that was totally debunked later, proven to be maybe a bit abusive and just making lots of money. But aye, Narada Michael Walden became a producer. He was in Journey, Don't Stop Believing. But I think it was after they recorded that. But he used to tour with them. Solo artist and a producer. He produced The Bodyguard. The Bodyguard film. Whitney Houston and Kevin Costner. He produced the soundtrack to that. And Mariah Carey's. Mariah Carey's how I know him, really. But I remember him, the name Narada Michael Walden, quite distinctive, but he was the drummer for that Mahavishnu. It was quite kind of mystic type name that John McLaughlin was a guitarist for. And yeah, hey, it's Narada Michael Walden that sings. That's a sample. That bit of Unfinished Sympathy is a sample. And John McLaughlin, the Rangers goalkeeper, is somebody for who I've had unfinished sympathy. See, that's how you do it. That's it. I mean, John McLaughlin, the guitarist, he used to play guitar for Miles Davis. So these guys know how to mix it up and then get back on point. That's kind of what I'm doing there. Anyway, Unfinished Sympathy. So it's painful for John McLaughlin, the Rangers goalkeeper, now leaving the club. All these guys that are leaving, there's 5 players that are definitely leaving at this point in time that I'm talking to you, all in their 30s. Lundstrom, the youngest, at 30. McLaughlin, the oldest, 36, and it never really happened. It never happened. And the thing, the bit I always remember is that Scottish Cup final at the end of that 2021-2022 season. So much was expected. We got to a European final and we lost it in penalties, and the bravery of that team to go to Hampden the following Saturday and beat Hearts in the Scottish Cup final after extra time, having played extra time in penalties in Seville, and not even come away with the thrill, the buzz of winning the trophy. Absolutely phenomenal. And John McLaughlin playing that game. And I remember when we're 2-0 up and the relief, and everybody's kind of staggering about the Rangers end with relief, and at least we've got a cup to celebrate, to say a proper thank you to this team for everything they've given us this season in Europe anyway. I remember thinking to myself, God, it'd be nice if John McLaughlin would go off and let Al McGregor come on. That's the kind of thing you think up to yourself sometimes. Why would a player ever do that? And then that's what happened. He did. Because we all thought Al McGregor was leaving at the end of that season, because as I was talking about that game up at Ross County, that was probably maybe the worst one. The cracks were definitely shown, and the legend that is Al McGregor's game, he was just getting too old, simple as that. And I know it's a cheat coming from somebody as fat and old as me, but that's just, if we're being ruthless about it, objective about it, love McGregor, greatest Rangers goalkeeper of my life now officially. But he'd hung on too long already. So he was definitely leaving that season. It was kind of accepted he was going to go. And then John McLaughlin comes off, because we're 2-0 up. And I remember at the time also thinking, as soon as it actually happened, I thought, if Hearts pull one back straight away, I mean, we could end up making an arse of this. Maybe being a bit unprofessional here. The Germans wouldn't do this. But on comes Alan McGregor for, John McLaughlin makes way from, and I thought it was an absolutely beautiful thing. But it's easy for him to do that because John McLaughlin knew that was it. McGregor was away. Following season, he would be number one, as he was supposed to be when he'd arrived 2 years earlier. Already stained goods as far as I was concerned, because of course he had betrayed his Harrogate town by also playing for Harrogate Railway Athletic. Betty's Tea Room, Harrogate. Betty's Tea Room was in the Bettyco. The Bettyco derby, to have left one club in Harrogate to go to the other one, play for the other one, just absolutely disgusting. And I thought, can we trust this guy? But no, we took him on, and he sums up a kind of weirdness that's going on, a kind of fluidity, a kind of confusion that's really been exacerbated with the talk about Jack Butland perhaps leaving just now, about Rangers and international goalkeepers, and who. I think John McLaughlin had almost more games for Scotland. I think he played twice for Scotland, really. But he's like a Scotland international more effectively than he was a Rangers player. And we've now got this thing where Robby McCrorie is going to leave, where he could have been in the Scotland squad going to the Euros if he'd left and gone to somebody else last season. That's the general feeling. Liam Kelly seems to be coming in to Rangers also in the Scotland setup just now, and yet he's a kind of backup goalie at Rangers. Jack Butland, there was a lot of talk. It became a Rangers thing almost. Is he going to get to play for England? Because that'll be like a trophy for Rangers. No, it didn't happen. And there's this weird thing with John McLaughlin as well, where he played for Sunderland and Hearts and that. We knew about him without really knowing that much about him. He was just a name that was always there or thereabouts with the Scotland team, and so it seemed okay to sign him, but he wasn't the same level as McGregor, who was starting to fade, or like for example Craig Gordon, who is still in the Scotland squad just now, maybe one of the players to get dropped. But it's really weird. Jon McLaughlin was like, it feels good without us really knowing why. It feels like a good signing, a good backup, but then he was going to be the main man. And then we brought in Alan McGregor. I think we brought Alan McGregor back just as backup. And a lot of folk thought that's bad. That's a bad move. And I thought, well, just as backup, that's fine. And of course, Jon McLaughlin is that absolute horror pass back straight to David Turnbull of Celtic to make it 4-0. A game that was far from completely Jon McLaughlin's fault, but he played a major part in that tanking we took that day. And then the following game, the next game we play, we lose 4-0 in Amsterdam. I don't think Jon McLaughlin was particularly brilliant in that game either, and that was kind of it. It was like we had to bring Alan McGregor back in, and he's too old as well, and it never really worked for Jon McLaughlin at all. And he ends up he's leaving Rangers just now without his Rangers career ever really getting off the ground. But all the best to him. 36 years old in goalkeeping terms, fairly senior, but I'm sure he should be able to find another club, and I'm hoping he can get himself some regular first team football. Though I don't know if he's just maybe been happy to tick away his contract at Rangers. So, but all the best to him anyway. We're not going to see Jon McLaughlin again. It's a bit like this time last season, isn't it? We had Scott Arfield leaving. We had Alan McGregor, who come on as a substitute against Hearts in the Scottish Cup final in 2022. In 2023, he comes back into the team to play against Hearts again in the last home game of the season. It was at Ibrox, so he could be part of this farewell of McGregor, Ryan Kent, Alfredo Morelos, Scotty Arfield, Hallander. These guys that were clearing out, these losers that were suddenly were all losers and we're sick of the sight of them, and they had to go. It's fresh blood. Well, we're doing it again. Anybody who's been at Rangers more than 6 months now is the reason we haven't won the league, and we're wanting to get rid of them all. So it's the same thing. Two other players that are leaving. The first would be, Kemar Roofe. We'll talk about Kemar Roofe first. And that's just one of the biggest tragedies of my life supporting Rangers, that we didn't see more of Kemar Roofe. But of course, we all know that if we had seen more of Kemar Roofe, we'd have seen less of him because he'd get signed by somebody else straight away. Kemar Roofe is arguably the best striker I've ever seen in a Rangers shirt. He could actually be the best striker I've ever seen. The problem was he didn't see him enough because he never played. Our top scorer in the league this season, we won at 55. The Jamaican international with the Walsall accent, it must have really pissed him off that Ryan Kent had more of a Jamaican accent than he did in that dressing room. But what a player. I mean, I did a wee thing at the last home game of the season for the Jersnet post-match reaction pod, a really painful thing where I tried a wee Godfather thing anyway. But it's all about Kemar Roofe, my love for Kemar Roofe, and how it really hurts me, it devastates me that we never saw more of him. He scored I talked about the fact he scored a goal with his boobs against Celtic. It just sums him up. He's got a goal against Standard Liège where we're winning 1-0. Really important group game in the Europa League. We're winning 1-0. There's a bit of a crowd in there. It's still doing the COVID lockdown. There's distancing and what have you, but they've got a crowd in the Schlesien of Standard Liège. We're 1-0 up, but it's backs to the wall. They are pounding us. It's a soaking heavy pitch. And the ball gets cleared, kind of half cleared, I think almost to the kind of, maybe about 20 yards away from our goal. And Kemar Roofe picks the ball up and he holds off a guy, and he holds off another defender, and he beats another defender, and then he's got it up at our attackers. It's basically about 4 Standard Liège guys come onto him to take the ball off him, and he's just a one-man defence relieving machine. I just leading the line, it was phenomenal. For him to get us to the halfway line with the ball that night, just to give the defence a break, that was miraculous, fantastic world-class stuff in itself. He then scores with a shot from inside. You'll remember it. Backs it from just inside his own half. And I remember watching that thing. That's going in. That's going to go in, and just losing my shit when it did. Jumping about the living room watching it live. It was one of the afternoon, kind of tea time kickoffs in the Europa League. It was bloody magic. And then we'd won 2-0 in Liège. And of course, he'd played in Belgium. He'd played for Anderlecht for a while, Kemar Roofe, and he goes up to the crowd and he does the wee kind of A thing, and I'm like, that's him. He's mental. He's absolutely brilliant. He's giving it, Anderlecht, go on the Anderlecht. I'm an ex-Anderlecht man, to wind up the the standard Liège fans. There's no Rangers fans there. But no, it turned out it was the name of his initial one of his wains. He liked to say, which was he's just a lovely, loving father, and I'm saying he's been a total bampot. But what a goal! And the cruelest thing he ever did was just not playing enough games for Rangers. He was, remember the day again as Gio's reign was starting to get into trouble. We're struggling at home to Aberdeen on the 150th birthday of Rangers, and Gio takes off Alfredo and Morelos, who'd done nothing all game, and a few folk are gone mental. What are you doing, Van Bronckhorst? You don't got a clue what you're doing on it. There's kind of fights breaking out round about me. Folk taking exception to that, and he brings on Kemar No More, who just goes and scores the winner. The 5 minutes to go, just goes and scores the winner in the game, and that was all this. That was all the arguments settled. That League Cup final, us winning our first League Cup in 13 years. We brought on Kemar No More at the end of that. He'd scored the winner against. He scored that winner. It was like a Gerdie Muller-esque winner against Real Betis in Seville to give us that return ticket to Seville. I was talking about for ages after that game, where we had won in the very city that had given us so much heartache the previous year, and here we were coming back there and recording our first ever victory against Spanish opposition on Spanish soil. Wonderful, and it was that man who span in a sixpence in the 6-yard box where the boots are flying. It's all blood and snotters, getting it over the line, just scoring a fantastic Gerdie Muller-esque poacher's winner, like the one he scored against Ross County this season up at Dingwall. Just being able to, just knowing where the ball was going to land, just being in amongst the boots and the bodies and the heads flying, but knowing where he had to be to get the ball over the line into the back of the net. Phenomenal player. And that he comes on the following Sunday towards the end of that League Cup final against that. We're winning 1-0. There's about 8 minutes or so to go, plus the injury time. There's going to be a lot of that as well. And we're not playing well. We didn't play well in that game at all. And Aberdeen are starting to pile. They're throwing everything at it. And Andrew Shinnie, so Graham Shinnie is there kind of, the one thing Graham Shinnie, he's not particularly fast or skillful, but he's got street smarts. He's their leader, he's their captain, he's a dirty get and what have you. He's in the referee's face all the time, and he's an absolute nightmare. He's got plenty of nous, he knows how to win wee free kicks here and there, and it was him trying to see the ball out for a by kick to Aberdeen, and Kemar No More just gets in there and turns it into a corner for Rangers. He out-noused Shinnie, their top man, their most devious man. And I remember just kind of cheering almost louder than I did for Tav's goal in that game at that point, because this is just what Kemar No More would do when he could play. The nous he had, the skill he had. He would score goals that season, 155. He just scoring against Aberdeen, scoring against Celtic at Ibrox, and that as we went this amazing 100% record at Ibrox and unbeaten in the league all season. It was just, that's just slam, bang, whap. You'd hear that because there's no crowd, you hear the net getting hit by the ball, that lovely sclaffing noise, and it just Kemar No More had just scored out of nowhere. As soon as the ball came into his general orbit, it was going in the back of the net, or it was getting played to somebody who would put it in the back of the net. A fantastic moment against Sparta Prague, Slavia Prague, where he slices their goalkeeper's head with a 10-inch gash. It was because he was totally concentrating on the ball, feet up too high, but he was just, when he got interviewed after games, he was like trying to answer the question before the interview. He wanted things faster, wanted things done fast, and it spoke of a man who did not enough time on the ball in his life because of injuries that really tortured him. A Leeds fan got in touch with me on Twitter to tell me he's a great player, but you'll never see him because he's injured all the time. That's unfortunately came to pass. But he's a guy I would have kept forever, Kemar No More, because when he did come on the park, you were guaranteed something would happen. He scored against Celtic this season, wrongly disallowed. I think we can all argue the first Old Firm game this season, but that's Kemar No More all over. He leaves us with the only winning goal ever scored by a Rangers player on Spanish soil. Fantastic. And the man I would like to leave to last, and I'm most sad is leaving, of course, is Ryan Jack. Ryan Jack's an absolute legend as far as I'm concerned. Again, another man dogged by injuries, but probably Kemar No More is the only guy more dogged by injuries in recent years than Ryan Jack. Signed by Pedro Caixinha way back in 2017, one of those unfortunates who made his debut against Progress Niederkorn in that infamous tie. So he's been through it all, Ryan Jack, and just so happy that he's been involved when the club have finally picked up all 3 of the major trophies and got themselves to a European final in which he played. Ryan Jack, and he scores that goal against Celtic, our first win against Celtic for years. That New Year game, or between Christmas and New Year, in Steven Gerrard's first season, the only goal of the game, and a game that we absolutely dominated, and you could see that we'd lifted it, we'd completely lifted it, and Gerrard was the man for the job. And Ryan Jack, I think, embodied, he got exactly what Steven Gerrard was all about, and Steven Gerrard got Ryan Jack. And when he did play, he was just phenomenal. It made you feel safe. Right? One of the guys you knew his use of the ball was just so economical, so skillful, so tidy. The dig was there, and he liked a shot, and he scored. Last season he got a League Cup final goal at Hampden against Aberdeen, and in 2022, of course, at the end of that season, he scores the goal. What a goal! That ping right into the top corner in extra time. One of the most welcome goals of my entire life, supporting Rangers against Hearts in that Scottish Cup final. It was brilliant. Basically, to turn the game, to win as a Scottish Cup. I know Scott Wright gets the actual winner, but it was Ryan Jack's goal in extra time after everything the team had been through, as I said before, extra time and penalties over in Seville on the Wednesday night. An epic performance by Rangers that day. A game we dominated, and then Ryan Jack just ups it a gear. What a finish. This past Craig Gordon as well, who, other than Alan McGregor, is the best kind of goalkeeper in this country over the last 10 years. A phenomenal finish that left him rooted to the spot. Ryan Jack did so many other things. I'm scoring against Aberdeen at Pittodrie. The pity in that game was that he ended up surrendering a 2-goal lead to draw that game. But I remember even the abuse he would take off the Aberdeen fans, because he's born and bred in Aberdeen, became Aberdeen captain, and then we signed him, and he revealed that he'd been a lifelong Rangers supporter. That doesn't go down well with the team that loves to hate us. And he went up there and he scored, and that was great for him in that game. But we ended up drawing that game 2 weeks from being 2-0 up. But even after that was shortly after that I can't get these games mixed up. So many bad games just after the Christmas break. But when we were 3-0 down to Postecoglou Celtic at half time, the first time that happened, this was under Gio. The first time it happened, both times it happened under Gio. The first one, I remember Ryan Jack coming at half time, and Celtic obviously had eased up. They knew the game was done, but it didn't go any more than 3-0, and that's the kind of stuff that I appreciate. I think it's okay, to winning medals and what, but that's really playing for the jersey. When it's like the game is done, but you see it will get no worse than this. That's what Ryan Jack would do for you. He was a great player, and so many times he'd come back from injury. Remember, they scored the 2 goals up at Ross County. I think he was just back from injury after that one, and it was another one where was it during the 55 season? Was it Kilmarnock? I think we played at Ibrox, and he'd just come back from injury, scored the only goal of the game from like outside the box, a cracking finish. He would come back from injury all the time, but he would hit the ground running. Maybe that's where he picked up another injury, I don't know. But again, he just didn't have the longevity of career. A long time at Rangers, been there since 2017, but he didn't get the games under his belt, but he made a mark when he did. Phenomenal player, Ryan Jack. Hope he doesn't get cut from the Scotland squad. Great to see him playing for Scotland, and he's taken a bit of abuse while playing for Scotland as well, because of the way the support's going there, particularly making his debut up at Pittodrie against the Netherlands. But we need him representing, and he'll always be, I think, from now on, whoever Ryan Jack goes to for the tail end of his career, he'll always be representing the Gers when he's playing for Scotland or playing for whoever. He's always going to be one of us, and it was an absolute pleasure to watch him in a Rangers jersey. And I wish all these players all the very best in their future careers. And now it's just about Taven Goldson. They're the last of the losers. They're the last of the dead weights that we've got to get rid of. If everybody's to have their pound of flesh and they need support, we can start afresh. But plenty of rumours, but a couple of new signings, plenty of other rumours of signings. Robby McCrorie, of course, has said he's wanting to go, and it's been said that Rangers want $500,000 for him. A guy he's kept a clean sheet. The only Rangers goalkeeper who's kept a clean sheet in his last 2 games against Celtic, last 2 Old Firm games. Robby McCrorie did absolutely fantastic when he came on. That was the start of 2021-2022. We beat them 1-0. COVID and injuries, the side was really hampered by injuries. Still under Steven Gerrard. Helander scores the only goal of the game, and that was a great day, because we hadn't been in the stadiums for 55, and this was the first day we'd got to celebrate dominating Celtic, them unable to beat us even though we'd all these injuries. and Robby McCrorie keeping a clean sheet. He'd been brought in at that point in time. I don't know what the situation was. McLaughlin injured, or was it COVID as well? Al McGregor couldn't play, but in comes third choice Robby McCrorie. It was fantastic. Had to come in again towards the end of the season before last now, 2022, 2023, and didn't do himself, didn't embarrass himself at all, did really well, and had another clean sheet in that 3-0 win over Celtic. Michael Beale's kind of, the league was already done, but it was nice. So he's 26 now. There was his brother the other night making his debut for Scotland at right back over in Gibraltar. He's in the squad, and the feeling is that Robby McCrorie could have been in that Scotland squad if he'd been playing regular first team football. It's not going to happen from at Rangers. I don't think. Jack Butland could be leaving. He's maybe an asset that we're going to have to cash in on, Jack Butland, because other areas of the team are far more needing more work, far more urgently, are needing reinforcements. So there's talk that there's a good chance Butland could go. I don't know if Robbie Fraser fancies hanging about. Obviously not. Sorry, obviously not. I don't know if he should have hung about. But he's obviously sick of hanging about, and the feeling is that it's going to help his Scotland career if he goes elsewhere and gets regular first team football, and I hope he does, and all the very best to him, and all the very best to you for having the patience to listen to a 55-minute rant. This is ridiculous. I'm just trying. This is, as we get rid of 5 players, that's 55 minutes. That seems a bit right, and I'll talk to you guys soon, and hopefully you'll manage to get a more concise video out of me. But if James Tavernier and Connor Golson do go to Saudi Arabia, I think we're looking at an hour and 55 minutes.